So today we're having a discussion on heaven and hell. This was one of the topics populated by you all as something you were interested in discussing. How do we understand these things? What do they mean? And one of the books that has been really essential to me in my understanding of heaven and hell is a book called Love Wins by Rob Bell. So I'm going to lean really heavily on this for the purposes of our discussion, but we will also be populating questions and ideas and things we want to know more about. This isn't about coming to finite answers as much as it's about an opportunity to discuss and learn from each other and from the good Reverend Bell. This book is available where all fine books are sold, as well as my copy from your public library. So, listen now for Rob Bell. This is the preface to the book. To begin with a bit about this book. First, I believe that Jesus' story is first and foremost about the love of God for every single one of us. It is a stunning, beautiful, expansive love, and is for everybody, everywhere. That's the story. For God so loved the world. That's why Jesus came. That's his message. That's where life is found. There are a growing number of us who have become acutely aware that Jesus' story has been hijacked by a number of other stories. Stories Jesus isn't interested in telling because they have nothing to do with what he came to do. The plot has been lost, and it's time to reclaim it. I've written this book for all those everywhere who have heard some version of the Jesus story that caused their pulse rate to rise, their stomach to churn, and their heart to utter those resolute words, "I would never want to be part of that." You're not alone. There are millions of us. This love compels us to question some of the dominant stories that are being told as the Jesus story. A staggering number of people have been taught that a select few of Christians will spend forever in peaceful, joyous place called heaven, but the rest of humanity spends forever in torment and punishment in hell, with no chance for anything better. It's been clearly communicated to many of us that this belief is a central truth to the Christian faith, and to reject it, in essence, is to reject Jesus. This is misguided and toxic, and ultimately subverts the contagious spread of Jesus' message of love, peace, forgiveness, and joy that our world so desperately needs. And so is this book. Second, I've written this book because the kind of faith Jesus invites us into doesn't skirt the big questions about topics like God and Jesus and salvation and judgment and heaven and hell, but takes us deep into the heart of them. Many have these questions. Christians, people who aren't Christians, people who were Christians but can't do it anymore because of questions about these very topics, people who think Christians are delusional and profoundly misguided. Pastors, leaders, preachers, these questions are everywhere. Some communities don't permit open, honest inquiry about the things that matter most. Lots of people have voiced a concern, expressed a doubt, or raised a question only to be told by their family, church, friends, or tribe, "We don't discuss those things here." I believe the discussion itself is divine. Abraham does his best to bargain with God. Most of the book of Job consists of arguments by Job and his friends about the deepest questions of human suffering. God is practically on trial in the poems of Lamentations. And Jesus responds to almost every question he's asked with a question. What do you think? How do you read it? He asks again and again and again. The ancient sages said the words of the sacred text were black letters on white pages. There's all that white space, waiting to be filled in with our responses and discussions and debates and opinions and longings and desires and wisdom and insights. Reread the words and then enter into the discussion that has been going on for thousands of years across cultures and continents. My hope is that this frees you. There's no question that Jesus cannot handle, no discussion too volatile, no issue too dangerous. At the same time, some issues aren't as big as people have made them. Much blood has been spilled in church splits, heresy trials, raging debates over issues that are, in the end, not that essential. Sometimes what we are witnessing is simply a massive exercise in missing the point. Jesus frees us to call things what they are. And then, last of all, please understand that nothing in this book has been taught, suggested, or celebrated by many before me. I haven't come up with a radical new teaching that's any kind of departure from what's been said and told a number of times. That's the beauty of the historic Orthodox Christian faith. It's a deep, wide, diverse stream that's been flowing for thousands of years, carrying a staggering variety of voices, perspectives, and experiences. If this book then does nothing more than introduce you to the ancient ongoing discussion surrounding the resurrected Jesus in all his vibrant, diverse, messy, multi-voice complexity, well, I'd be thrilled. Thank you, Rob Bell. And I figured I couldn't say it any better than him. So that's our introduction, and we will leave our online audience, but we'll come back later with some summaries of the discussion, but in order to create space for this to be a vulnerable and real discussion, you'll have to show up for that part. So if you would tune into the first part of our heaven and hell discussion, you know that we kind of cut off to create some safe and vulnerable space here, but I did want to circle back and share with you some of the questions and things that came up, which this is kind of what we populated, and interestingly, a lot of the questions we had about heaven and hell ended up kind of being about both. And a lot of them are, again, answered in this book, Love Wins, by Rob Bell, which I can't recommend enough, for how it explores these concepts. But what our takeaway is that if there is no unforgivable sin in the eyes of God, then there is no need for a hell. If we can grasp the concept of a restorative justice over a retributive justice, then there doesn't need to be a concept of eternal punishment. And would a loving Father, would a loving God be even able to allow for eternal punishment, much like a loving parent could not eternally punish their child? As for the ideas of heaven, a lot of us were wondering around, is this just a return of energy, since energy cannot be created or destroyed, but a return of energy to the whole, a place of reconnection. And then one of the big concepts, too, is that these don't have to be just some later sort of destination, that maybe we're not building toward some eternity in the way that we originally conceptualized those, or a lot of people think in typical Christian circles and these kinds of things. But instead, these can be ideas that are already and not yet. That these are ideas that are part of how we're living our lives now, as we think about, are we doing heavenly things? Are we doing hellish things? Where do these two come together? So again, I recommend Love Wins if you want to study some more around these ideas. And of course, you're always welcome to join us in the flesh. Keep an eye on our events on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. And we'd love to have you be part of the conversation. Grace and peace.